first speaker. And Steve Hastings came to mind because he's a legend in the club. He's sailed the Pacific and so forth. So he said he would do a talk on sailing the Pacific. So Steve was born in Waco and raised in Albuquerque in Oklahoma. Went to Baylor University for undergrad and law school, and then moved to Corpus Christi, where he bought a number of boats. He's been a practicing trial attorney for 44 years, and he's got a couple kids, 2 of whom did the TransPac with him. So he started taking lessons sailing at church camp in Oklahoma. He's had 4 boats. I suspect there might be a 5th, the way you said.
Yeah.
And
ask her.
Among other things, he's the winner of the St. Thomas Rolex Club. Did they give you a Rolex? Yes. Winner of the St. Pete to Havana race, second in the BVI Spring Regatta. The Antigua Race Week, St. Martin Heineken Regatta, the Key West Race Week, and he's been the first boat to finish the Harvest Moon Race from Galveston, Port Aransas for 11 years. Yeah. So Steve is going to talk about sailing the Pacific.
That's only counting sailboats, not counting motorboats.
Thank you all for coming. Can y'all hear me back there?
I think you have to hold the mic right in front of your mouth.
I will try to make it better. It is my honor to give you this presentation. Me and technology don't go back real far, so we'll do our best on a PowerPoint. The TransPac is a race from Los Angeles to Honolulu. It's got started in 1906, as many races do. Guys with boats decided they wanted to race somewhere. Some guys in California own big boats, and they said, well, we're tired of racing around San Francisco Bay or up and down the coast of California, so let's go to Hawaii. So the race started in 1906. It is run every other year in the odd years. It will be run this summer. And it has been going on for over 100 years. The race has grown, and its reputation has grown. I'd always known about it, just being a sailor. And it's considered one of the great ocean races in the world. There's about 5 of them. The Sydney Hobart, the TransPac, the Fastnet, the Newport to Bermuda. They are races that sailors strive to do and always want to do. When I have wanted to do it as long as I became a racing sailor. And it's one of the reasons that in 1996, we bought the Santa Cruz 50. The boat was built for this race. And it's a light boat for the times when it was built. My boat was built actually in 1981. It was built and designed by a guy named Bill Lee. His theory was fast is fun, and the lighter the boat is, the faster it goes downwind. I'm trying. They're having trouble hearing in the back. When we bought the boat in 1996, our goal was eventually to do this race. We did the race in 2007 and again in 2009. One of the things that is difficult to realize about the race is Los Angeles to Honolulu is 2,225 nautical miles. It's similar to sailing or driving your car from New York to Los Angeles. But in this case, we're doing it by boat. And it's one of the great challenges. You leave, in 2007, we had 72 boats in the race. And by the time the first day is over, you don't see very many boats because everybody picks their own course to get there. But there are many traditions in the TransPac. One of them is that no matter what time of the day or night you finish, you are met at the other end with a party on the dock. And doesn't matter if it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning. When Pam Harrison found out that we were going to do the race, she and her sister, Sheila Thomas, volunteered to be our host through their aunt who lives on Diamond Head, Sheila Watamul. So as soon as Pam heard that we were doing the race, she and her sister came over, found me, and said, our aunt's gonna host your party. And they did. That's one of the first things you plan in the TransPac is have the party. So we did. Pam and Steve, Sheila, and Big Sheila, that's what they call Sheila Watamul, Alan and Robin Den all got together and hosted our party on the dock as soon as we made it into Hawaii. One of the things that we confronted as soon as we started planning the race was I got together with Billy Lyles and Gary Sparrow, who have sailed with me for years, and we started figuring out how to get the boat ready. One of the first things we did is after installing a bunch of equipment down here, we took the boat to Houston, to Kemah, and had a yard up there. They took the keel off and took the rudder out. We wanted to make sure that the boat itself was ready. What you're looking at on the right, that's an 8,000-pound keel that bolts to the bottom of my boat. The boat draws, meaning we need 8 feet of water, so that's the keel that's bolted up under the bottom. Before I was going to take my kids and my friends into the Pacific Ocean for 2,000 miles, I wanted to make sure that the boat was ready. So we took the boat up there, dropped the keel off, and on the right side is all the wires and all the stuff that we had to redo. The white tube there is a water maker that we had to install so that we would have water for the entire trip. We also found when we took the keel out that the aluminum I-beam going down through the middle of the boat had some corrosion. Didn't know it until we started pulling everything apart. So we replaced the middle of the boat and then bolted stuff back up together and figured out how to get the boat ready. We installed sideband radio, we installed new instruments, we installed the water maker, redid everything on the boat to make sure that it was safe, that it was solid to do this kind of an event. Then we have to take care of the crew. So my friend Billy Lyles said, I'll make crew bags for everybody, which he did. He made them for not only the people on the boat, but our kids who weren't on the boat. For Pat, who helped get the boat ready, and I think he made them for Pam and Sheila too. If he didn't, he will. But one of the things that you have to consider in a race like this is that the lighter the boat is, the faster the boat goes, because most of the race is downwind, so you want to be as light as possible. One of the reasons we installed a water maker was you can't carry enough water for 10 people for 10 to 14 days without weighing a whole lot, so we put in the water maker. Another thing we did was Billy and I agreed that if you got on the boat, whatever you're taking has to fit in this bag. Whether you're male, female, it doesn't matter. If it doesn't fit in the bag, it doesn't go on the boat. We've had other races where people showed up with a roller suitcase, and that wasn't going to happen for this race. So part of the preparation process was to get the boat as light as possible, get the crew ready, and get all your gear confined so that we could manage it on the boat with a whole bunch of people for however long it was going to take. Once the boat was ready, then we have to get it to Los Angeles. For that process, the first race, it took me about 2 months to line up a trucking company, because you put it on a trailer, take it out to Los Angeles, and then you've got to get it back in the water, put together, and then you've got to get the boat home from Hawaii. So the process of lining all that up took truly 2 months of phone calls and emails trying to line it all up for the first race. For the second race, it took 1 phone call. All we had to do was repeat the process. But logistically, The 18-wheeler takes the trailer out to Marina del Rey in California. We unload the boat from the trailer, put it in the water, and then we reassemble the boat. The truck takes the trailer down to San Diego, where the trailer goes onto a ship, and the ship sails to Hawaii, where they unload the trailer. And when we get to Hawaii, we put the boat back on the trailer. They roll the boat on the trailer back onto the ship, bring it back to San Diego, where the tractor hooks up and hopefully brings it home to Corpus. So that's the logistics of getting your boat from Corpus Christi to Hawaii and back. And that was a process that took a while to set up. Once we got it to Marina del Rey, that's the boat down in the slip. They're putting the mast back on. I flew out there, and Billy's son Will went with me, and I forget who went on the first round. You may have.
I got there
Okay.
after you.
We put it. It takes several days to get the boat put back together and reassembled, because you've got to put all the lifelines back on. You've got to put the wheel back on. You've got to put the mast back in. You've got to tune it all up and wire it all up. So I went out, and second time Carter went with me. His son, Billy's son Will, went with me, and the three of us put the boat back together. And then we sailed it from Marina del Rey around to Long Beach, where the race fleet assembles. It's just, this whole process is full of memories for me because the first time we did the race, Carter was 16 years old, and second time he was 18. You sail this race with your friends. The whole time you are enjoying everybody on the boat in one way or another, some more than others, but that's part of sailboat racing. Our crew in 2007 is pictured on the right, and your left, my right, okay. And we had 10 people on board for 2007. I think they're all there, yeah. It was Billy and his son Will, Mark Foster, and Mark did both races with us. Mark is a world champion sailor, and it was essential that we have him on board. Just an amazing amount of experience. We had Brent Kepke, who grew up in Corpus. He joined us. Susie Hubbard. Susie and Billy have sailed with me since about 1987. Chad Howard is on the right. Chad's about 6'8". He started sailing with me when he was 18 years old. He now is a registered nurse living in San Francisco. Carter and Holly. Holly is my daughter. She was 20 years old when she did the race, and Carter was 16. When Holly got to, when we arrived in Honolulu 11 days later, Holly's first thought with her mom was, wash my hair and chop about 4 inches off, because it was a little rough. In 2009, we had a different plan. We had a little bit different crew. We decided to try and lighten up both crew weight and the boat some more. So we did the race with 8 people. It was Gary Sparrow, Mark Foster, Billy Lyles, Will Lyles, Carter, Hastings, and me, and Jim Tyree and Susie Hubbard. And part of the consideration of both races was, I mentioned Chad Howard is an RN, so it was good to have medical personnel on board. It was needed. For the second race, Jim Tyree's a doctor, and he was needed. And it's good planning when you're going to sea that long to have somebody that can take care of anything that might come up. And we needed that help at times, so it was reassuring to have them. And reassuring if I'm going to take my children on board with me, somebody's there to take care of them. The race starts off Los Angeles at Point Furman. there is one mark of the course, and that is you have to go around Coronado Island, leave it to port. It's on your port side as you're going past. And then the next stop is the finish in Diamond Head, Honolulu, Hawaii, 2,225 miles away. The process of getting there is tricky. The race has always been called a navigator's race because you've got weather systems between, I'm sorry for the popping. The weather system that dominates between Los Angeles and Honolulu is the Pacific High. And the Pacific High is never located in the same spot. So where you go depends on where the Pacific High is located. If you go straight into the Pacific High, you run out of wind because in the middle of a high pressure system, there is no air. So you've got to figure out how far south of there, or do you want to go over the top of it? That depends on where it's sitting between Los Angeles and Honolulu. We look at weather systems, we look at all the weather information we can gather and take a shot because it's a long way from Los Angeles all the way to Honolulu. And if you mess up that decision of where you're going to go, you won't win the race. And you may take a whole lot longer to get there. So part of the strategy is how far south of that high do you go? You need to go far enough where you're going to be in good strong wind, but if you go too far south, you're just adding a whole lot of miles to your course. So it's a gamble on how far down you go and when do you make a right turn and go towards Hawaii. So that's part of the process of deciding. You make that call early on in the first few days of the race, and then you adjust that course depending on information that you get in. Single sideband radio and also kind of an early satellite phone system. We would get weather information every 12 hours called grid files, and those are files that tell you which direction the wind is currently blowing, which direction it's forecast to go, and how strong it's going to be. And then you've got software on a computer on the boat that works with those grid files and analyzes your boat's performance and the projected wind and makes a recommendation to you of where to go. Please remember that this is 2007 by grid file or sat phone, so download speeds are not real good. Carter took a picture of, it looks like the old AOL dial-up system, and that's about how fast it was. And we're preserving batteries and we're doing everything else while we're running. So you're downloading the grid files, put them into the computer like Mark Foster's working with up on the top left, or Gary Sparrow is working with in the middle of the night. The computer makes a suggestion of where it thinks you ought to go, and then the skipper and the navigator and the other folks on the boat, we make a decision if we believe the computer or don't believe the computer. Do we want to go where it says or don't we? For the 2007 race, we went pretty far south, and it worked out. We didn't go as far south as the winner. He gambled, and it paid. For the 2009 race, we didn't go as far south, and we paid for it. We got too close to the high in the first couple of days. We got into real light wind, and we were going slow. We thought we could cut the corner, and we almost made it, but we missed it by about 6 hours. And that was enough of a difference to make it the difference between finishing 11 days or finishing in 10 days. So it was a frustrating race in 2009 with regard to the course selections that we made. But one of the things that this picture kind of emphasizes is that in this race, it's a long race, but you are racing the boat 24/7, day and night. There is no time off. You are pushing it, and it's time to go. The race, it looks like we're going to Hawaii, so it's always warm. Not exactly. Right after the start, after you're around Catalina, as the sun goes down, it gets cold. The Pacific Ocean is about 60 degrees at that point, and it's coming over the bow because you're going upwind. So everything that you have available to wear, you do wear. You wear your foul weather gears, you wear fleece, you wear every t-shirt you have to try and stay warm that first 2 nights because it's extremely cold. We're having fun, but the second time we did the race in '09, as the boat is heeling over, it's about 55 degrees outside. I'm freezing and thinking to myself, why am I doing this again? It gets better, but the first 2 nights are strenuous. And but the way we divide the crew, since we're racing 24 hours a day, every day, we split up into 2 watches. And we basically divided the crew in half. And you've got Billy's watch, and then you've got my watch. And we split the crew up based upon experience, based upon jobs, because we need somebody young enough to go work up on the bow on each side. So Billy's son was on one of them, and I forget who was on mine. He got the good guy. But you're dividing up the work. You've got to divide up the drivers. This is the crew split for the '09 race. Billy had himself and Will and Gary Sparrow and Susie Hubbard. All of them could drive the boat, except Gary doesn't really like to. On my watch, I had Carter and me, Jim Tyree, and Mark Foster. And you'd drive the boat, each person would drive, depending on conditions, for about an hour. And then you've got to rotate off because you'd start losing your concentration. We'll split up jobs. Somebody's got to trim the spinnaker all the time. Somebody's got to grind a winch all the time. And so when you're on watch, you're not sitting there watching what's going on. You are making the boat go faster. And that is the goal. And it's one of the things that really kind of sunk into me during the first few days of the race was how intense it is, because you're pushing the boat all the time. Even when you're off watch, you're not really just sitting around much because you want to have your weight where it does the most good for the boat. The other thing that really you don't realize until you go down below is how loud it is. Because my boat is not a cruising boat. It is a racing boat. Every time you hear somebody up on the deck grinding on a winch, it's just amplified down below, especially if you're trying to sleep right below the winch. Every time somebody's easing a sheet to adjust the spinnaker, you can hear that all throughout the boat. Doesn't matter where you're sitting. So that you don't really sleep all that well. I probably slept an average of 2 hours a day for the 11 days because I had my kids on board. I had other people relying upon me, and it's really loud. So, but it's something. It's part of it is the responsibility to. I invited all these people, so I want to make sure that they get to where we want to go. I want to make sure we all get there safely. I'm sure Billy probably slept 3 hours a day. But that was the watch system because you've got to divide the labors. When you're off watch, it's not exactly comfortable. On the left, that's Chad taking up most of the middle of the boat, and you've got guys sleeping on each side of him. On the right, that's Jim Tyree in the '09 race. He's got a smile on, just, because what else can he do? He's being filmed. We prepared you've got lee cloths on to keep from rolling off your bed and falling into the floor. Part of the logistics is how do we feed these people? How do we take enough food? And I will be eternally grateful to Susie Hubbard for taking care of that. Mark Foster's one comment when we got to Honolulu was, we're probably the only crew that gained weight on the race. Susie is a wonderful cook and a wonderful planner. and with a great attitude. And as I said, she's been sailing with me since 1987. We have sailed far and wide together. We've sailed all the way home from the Caribbean together. So I knew I could count on her to take care of the food aspect. She planned for months and cooked a lot of food here, froze it, shipped it out to California. Only she could meet and get connected with the owner of a restaurant right across the street from the boat, who let us freeze all of our food in his freezer of his restaurant until the morning we left, and then she hauled it all down, and we've got a small refrigerator on the boat, and the only one allowed in the refrigerator freezer was Susie. And she had all the food layered so that she would work her way down day by day by day, feeding us. And by the end of the trip, we were down to the very bottom of the ice chest, and she had planned it all. She even figured out how to cook steaks on the boat. I'm sure we're the only boat that had steaks, but she was just marvelous at doing that, and the planning was essential. We don't have a shower down below in the boat. And so one of the things that we would do, we had a hose on the back end of the boat. It was saltwater showers, the first race. The second race, we installed a hot water heater, but it really didn't work very well. So you're taking a shower in very cold water, and the wind's blowing by, so you're getting frozen. But we're doing our best not to smell. Tammy assures me when we got there, she had never smelled anything as bad as the crew coming off this boat. One of the good things is that you become nose blind to the rest of your crew, because we didn't realize we stunk so bad. She made me take about 3 baths when we got to Hawaii before she would even come close to me. But that's Jim Tyree on the left and Carter on the right, doing our best to get cleaned up. I mentioned that there are a lot of traditions with this race. One of the traditions is a halfway party. So when you're 1,000 miles from California and 1,000 miles from Honolulu, you have a party. It is one of the traditions. This was the second time we did it. So we were more decorated for the second one. That's Will on the right. Susie provided his costume. That's Mark Foster driving the boat in a grass skirt. One of the things that it was most difficult for my crew to adjust to was that we didn't take any beer on the boat. No alcohol, and we just had water the whole time. But for the halfway party, the first time I stashed one of the little bitty pony kegs of Heineken on board the boat. Susie was the only one that knew it, and the day before the halfway party, we stuck it in the freezer so that it could get cold. And so we had beer at least for the halfway party, and I didn't realize that Susie stuck the keg back, what was left of the keg, back in the refrigerator, and she had beer the rest of the way to Hawaii. One of the things that is special about sailing with people is you develop a very close bond. I have been blessed to sail with wonderful people. We lost some of them years ago, but we took their remains with us to Hawaii. And that was Jack and Tom. Now, once you're past the cold weather, you get into where it's nice and warm and the boat starts flattening out. You start drying out, the boat starts drying out, and you start surfing, which is what my boat is built to do. Oops. I don't know if you can hear that. We did that for about 8 days, day and night. The weather was, a lot of times the wind is up, a lot of times it's like that, but you've got a spinnaker up, and this is why you do this race. There's no boats in sight. And you would think that with 72 boats you would see people. They're all going to the same place. But after the second day or so, we would periodically see a boat or two along the way. There was a boat, the first race, there was a boat from Japan that came and did the race called Tachyon. And we decided we hated them just because, they were always there and we couldn't get past them. They couldn't get past us either. But we kept crossing them. And it was very frustrating that we kept seeing them. So, and they had a big spinnaker with a red dot on it. So we always knew who it was. But as I said, the whole time that you're sailing, you are working. So your Carter, the upper left, he's smiling, but he's grinding. He's what's called a grinder at that point. He's grinding the winch. The line that goes around it is going up to like Gary right here on the lower right. He looks very relaxed there, but he's pulling on the spinner. He's watching it. That line goes in and out all the time. You don't just sit there and hold it. Somebody's driving the boat. Susie was one of our drivers, and top right, that's one of the watches. So you're moving the boat, you're pushing the boat because it is a competition, and we are all out there to try and win. So 24 hours a day, you're running and trying to push the boat as fast as you can. But this is the kind of weather, this is the kind of set that they put in the brochures for the race. This is what you want to look like. Everybody's having fun, everybody's going fast.
Go Carter.
Yeah, look at that grinding.
And you do that 24 hours a day, all the time. And if you're down below that winch, it's real loud. One of the things that's hard to understand is how loud a boat gets as you accelerate down waves. The boat is built to surf waves. And when it picks up in the back and you start going down a wave, we average 10 knots all the way to Hawaii. But our top speed was 23.6 knots. We did that in pitch black dark, by the way. But as the boat gets picked up and starts going down a wave, it gets louder and louder and louder. And finally, at about 18 knots, the boat's just kind of bouncing down the wave. And you can hear this big, loud sucking noise coming off the back end of the boat. And it's just screaming at you of a... And if you're trying to sleep through that, it doesn't work very well. But that is what the boat's built to do. And this is just another example of what we were doing and what we were doing for 11 days. The weather during the race would go from idyllic like that. You can see a rainbow out there. One night we had a full moon and just the right cloud cover to where we had a rainbow, but it was caused by the moon. So I don't know, you call it a moonbow? I'd never seen one before, but it was different shades of white and gray. And it was just fascinating to see it in the middle of the ocean. The TransPac also has squalls that blow through once you're down in the trade winds. And you actually try to line up in front of a squall because the wind gets real strong in front of a squall, and it will help you get to Hawaii faster. They can also bite you. One of the things that we did. I don't know why Friday nights on the race seem to always hurt, but as the squall builds up, the wind picks up. In 2007, we got hit by we had a full main up and a spinnaker up, ounce and a half kite up, and we were just running downwind. And a squall came in behind us, and it was blowing about 30. The waves were between 12 and 17. And it picked us up at about 8 o'clock at night, and it stayed with us until about 4 o'clock in the morning. We called freight train night, wild wheel wrestling, all kinds of things. But there was no moon, there was no light. It was pitch black, cloud cover, and it was just honking. It was kind of like today's wind, but you didn't have a choice. We had the main up, we had a spinnaker up. Thought about reducing sail, but I decided it would be more dangerous to try and pull a spinnaker down in those conditions than just run with it and ride it. But all you can steer by, if you're the helmsman, is you're looking at your compass and you're looking at the direction of the wind at the top of the mast. And your goal is to keep the boat under the mast and not jibe the boat. As you get picked up and start going down a wave, you don't want to bury the nose in the wave in front of you, because then you're just going to be in all kinds of trouble. So as you get to the bottom of the wave, you got to start carving the boat up a little bit and try to not get too far, or it's going to take the boat over on its side. But you're doing this in the pitch black, and each driver was good for maybe 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes before it was time to rotate out. Carter and Holly were down below. Carter's 16 years old when this is going on. He starts to come up, and Mark Foster yells at him and tells him, "You got to stay down below. I promised your mom I'd get you to Hawaii." And truly, it was probably the most terrifying night that I have lived through on a sailboat. But it's also one of the greatest nights I ever experienced on a sailboat, because you're put out at the extreme and you're just driven. You've got to do it. And everybody on the boat did it. Everybody rose to the occasion, worked hard, and pushed the boat. We made great time. Everybody driving the boat broke 20 knots while they were driving. It just kept picking it up and going, picking it up and going. And we had to do that for 8 hours till finally the squall got past us and life kind of calmed down. I remember that next morning, while it's dark, I kept thinking I was seeing running lights that we were passing, because the cruising boat started in front of us. And I was sure I was seeing lights. No, I wasn't. But it had been a long night. In the '09 race, on a Friday night, we had another event. Billy's son, Will, was our bowman, and still is. Will's a lawyer and lives in Houston now. He took this picture from the top of the mast, because while you're sailing, you've got to maintain the boat. We broke a halyard. Somebody's got to go up and get a new halyard attached. You've got to maintain it. You've got to check on it. So periodically, somebody's got to go to the top of the mast and fix things or check on things and make sure you're not wearing out a halyard, which is what holds the spinnaker up. So Will went up and naturally took a selfie. But sometimes you shouldn't tempt fate. So on Friday night, it's a beautiful night. It's about, 2 o'clock in the morning. We're about to change watches. And incidentally, on our watches, we would work 6 hours on during the day, 6 hours off during the day. At night, you'd be on for 4 hours, off for 4 hours, and then back on for 4 hours, so that given 48 hours, your watches rotate so that you're not always doing the same chunk of time every day every night. But we were just getting ready for a watch change, I think at 2 o'clock in the morning, and decided to jibe. And it did not go well. And a jibe is when you're going downwind and you need to turn. That means the main flips over and the spinnaker's got to be rotated to the other side. We had been at sea for about 9 days, I think, at that point, maybe 8. And the jibe didn't go well, so the spinnaker wrapped itself around the forestay. And we tried to unwrap it by jibing back again several times. It just got worse. And fortunately, it wasn't blowing that much. It was blowing about 15. But in all these jibes back and forth, we managed to break off the boom that holds the main sheet to the boom. So we didn't have any control of the boom at that point. We had spinnaker wrapped around the forestay, and you got to deal with it. So we got a hold. Yeah, 4 in the morning. It's pitch black. Well, this started about 2. It went on for several hours. We got control of the main, got the boom lassoed and under control. But we still had a knot of a spinnaker around the forestay. So we sent Will up to the top of the mast to try and cut things loose. As I said, we were glad we had a doctor on board, because Will almost took the end of his finger off in this process. So Jim had to sew it up after we got things under control. That spinnaker came down in a variety of pieces. You can see this is the head of the spinnaker, which is at the very top. We'll chop that off to try and get things loose so that we could get it unwrapped from the forestay. By about 4 o'clock in the morning, we finally had it down on deck, and I remember clearly, Billy and I are sitting up, we're on the foredeck, front part of the boat. We've got spinnaker all around us, just shredded. We have a tradition on the boat of naming our spinnakers. Usually the best one we use is Maryland, and that is our logo, although it looks like my wife. But this one, at 4 o'clock in the morning, middle of the Pacific Ocean, Billy and I have piles of sail all around us, and I look at Billy and I say, well, this kite needs a different name. This is Jane Mansfield. So those are the adventures of 4 o'clock in the morning sailing and being extremely tired. Let me tell you where we're at. The first thing we saw in the 07 race as we're getting to Hawaii was the island of Molokai. We sailed into the lighthouse at Kalaupapa, jibed over, and you're headed for Honolulu. It's about 40 miles away at that point. That is the western shore of Molokai is a sheer cliff that goes up about 400 feet. So that's what you're seeing. We have jibed over, and it's blowing about 25. We've got a spinnaker up. When we jibed, we had a light air kite up. Right after we jibed, it blew out. And I'd been asked, do I want to pull it down and put a lighter one up? And I said, nah, we're tired. And if it goes, it goes. And it did. So we put a heavier spinnaker up. And this is down the coast of the Molokai. That sailing down that coast that morning was one of the great memories of sailing, because it's one of your goals to make it to Hawaii, and then you get there and the sailing is just awesome, and you're doing it with your friends. That's a very tired sailor. But looking out in front of the boat, you're headed to the Molokai Channel, which is between the Molokai Island and Oahu, Diamond Head. That channel always gets big wind. It's one of the great places to sail in the world because it's a tradition of great downwind sailing. So that's what's coming up. I just took this picture because I love it. That's my daughter. I got to sail the TransPac. The reason you do this race as a sailor is so that you can sail in conditions like this. We're coming into Diamond Head, a professional photographer's in a helicopter taking these pictures, but we're surfing, it's blowing 25, we're in big waves, and that's what you want to do as a sailboat sailor. That's why you go to Hawaii, so that you can do this. We're approaching the finish. And the finish of the TransPac is at Diamond Head. That's our boat finishing in 07. That's the finish buoy. Passing that had been a goal ever since I bought the boat, even before. This is 09.
Listen to the radio, yeah.
There's Honolulu and there's Diamond Head.
Give me confirmation rate.
Whoops, too far. That's us finishing in 09 with Maryland up. And you might notice that we also had matching outfits, because that is another tradition, that you have a crew shirt. Look good when you finish, look good when you get into Honolulu. When you pick a race to do, a wise decision is to pick a destination that your wife wants to be at. The wives enjoyed, they were at the Kahala, I think, at that point, which is it's a really nice resort in Honolulu. This is Billy's daughter Elizabeth, who's there. She is. They're waiting at the finish line on Diamond Head, looking out. She took the picture that of us finishing in 07. Lower right, it's Tina and Mark's wife and Jim's wife and my wife. So another race that I've been given permission to do again is the Rolex Regatta in St. Thomas, because she will stay at the Ritz on St. Thomas while I go race. She hadn't quite agreed that we can go do the TransPac again, probably because I'm getting old. When you finish, it's a treasured memory. This is the crew in 09. You are greeted with filet by the welcoming committee. They take care of everybody. You get to do this kind of regatta with all your friends, and they're on the boat with you or they're meeting you at the end, your family. We all had a great time. They had a great time. This kind of event just gives you memories of a lifetime. This is 07. Cody, in the stripes, he didn't do the race. That's my youngest. He is now 28 years old and in law school. It's been a while. Another the tradition of welcoming the racers it's really sincere in Honolulu. It is a big deal when the TransPac comes to town. The news media came down because we were one of the earlier boats to finish in the 07 race. That's the news interviewing Tammy. Our welcoming committee brought a banner for us. Another tradition is when you finish, the traditional drink of the TransPac is a Mai Tai. So we had a great welcoming committee. They showed up with gallons of Mai Tais, and we consumed gallons of Mai Tais. I mentioned that our host in Hawaii was Sheila Wadamul. This is Sheila standing next to my wife, and Sheila hosted us with a party at the Waikiki Yacht Club. And that's the crew from '07. And Mark Foster's wife, Cynthia, in the lower left. It is a very active, social, and fun regatta to do. If you ever get a chance to do it, go. This is the trophy presentation. We finished the race in 11 days. The first race, 11 days, 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 36 seconds. We got 4th place. We got 6th overall out of 72 boats. We were 44 minutes out of 3rd after 11 days. The second time we got 4th in our class again. That took 11 days, 4 hours, and 8 minutes. Seems to take us 11 days to get to Hawaii. After the trophy presentations, after all the parties are over, you got to get your boat home. So the crew gets together. We go to take the boat to a boat yard, get it out of the water, take the mast off, get it back on the trailer, and that trailer then goes on a ship and comes to California. Eventually a tractor hooks up to it, and you hope that it brings it home, this is the boat returning home in '09. What you don't see is that a mile earlier, while the I-37 is crossing crosstown, the trailer caught on fire. He had a brake overheat. It caught one of the tires on fire that's on the side you're looking at. He blew through 4 fire extinguishers and still didn't have it out, but fortunately the fire department got it there before it burned my boat up. That's not a call you want to get. I've gotten a couple of those calls on boat trips. This one ended okay. But the why you do this is the why you do any regatta. You do it to experience it with your friends. You do it to experience it with your family. One of my favorite pictures of my wife. Upper left, Chad's 6'8". My wife is not, unless she stands in a chair. In the middle is Gary Sparrow, who has sailed with me for over 20 years, and Gary can fix anything. He proved that on the second day out when Mark Foster broke the handle on the head. There's only one head on the boat, and everybody needs it. And Mark had been very serious about taking any spare tools off, any spare parts. And after Gary fixed a makeshift handle on the head, Mark said, "Gary, next race you can bring anything you want." You've got Billy and his son Will, my family down on the lower right, Mark Foster and his wife, and in the middle is me and Billy. That's why you do the race. Thank y'all. That's it. Thank y'all.
Awesome story. Wonderful. Wonderful story.
Are you going to do it again?
Well, Jim Collins and I, after 3 martinis, agreed that we were going to do it about 2 months ago, and then we got sober. And I would love to do it again, but it may have to be a bigger boat. Any questions? I forgot to ask that. Good enough. Let's head to the bar.
One more thing, please. I have a question for everybody.
There you go.
Question is, what is the significance of April 15th?
Nothing good.
No. Lynn Allison will be here. She's the public information manager from Flatiron Regattos, the folks that are building this beautiful bridge, and she's going to talk about the bridge. How does that sound?
Awesome. Wonderful.
And she looks a lot better than I do.
And she's much more attractive than this fella. What a great
Thank
presentation.
you.
Oh, thank you very much.
My